Show me the money.
Was looking good, but I think I'm taking too long.
Back to the spot for a Glock. I took a loss over floss, but still got a knock.
Money! Jerry, does that make you feel good just to say that?
All right, show me the money. NFL picks for week number 10 here on the podcast as we are just past the halfway point of the NFL season. Join me today, another good friend of the pod. He's big college Who's presence, but his Dallas Cowboys might be almost disappointing as my Jets are this season. Troy Mauriello is here. Troy, how are you?
I'm doing all right, Mike. Well, yeah, we do have a battle for the two most disappointing teams in the league, I think. At least you have your quarterback still, so you have a little bit of hope, but I think it's all over for my Cowboys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, we saw this game Sunday against the Falcons, obviously. I know this is a spot where, you're playing Kirk Cousins on the road. You say, okay, maybe something happens here, and they just, don't look good. Dak gets hurt. Like, what was your big takeaways from that game?
Yeah, they don't do anything good. Like, they don't run the ball well. They don't defend the run. They're a very injured team. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, that connection has really been off the entire year, maybe because of CeeDee's contract holdout, of course. Their offensive line has struggled. They've gotten pushed around on the defensive line. Trayvon Diggs has come back from injury and hasn't really been very good. So they just don't really do anything well. And couple that with the head coach, Mike McCarthy, who is, not a very good head coach, I think most people would agree with. And that's how you get a team that's 3-5 right now. I actually thought that they would win the Falcons game, as silly as that sounds. And they just, they keep playing these games where the final score looks a little bit closer, I think, than the actual game was. Look back to the Niners game and the Ravens game as well, and then the Falcons game from this week. So it's just not a very good team. And now with Dak Prescott going on the IR, missing the next 4 games, you look at who's coming up: Houston, Philly, and the Commanders. Like, those are 3 really tough games. So this team's season is going to be over very, very soon, and it's going to be time to start looking at the draft.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that you don't know what they do well, because our guest on the pick segment last week, Sean Rowe, asked me the same question. He's like, Mike, what do the Cowboys do well? It's like, I'm not sure what I'm seeing. I'm like, I don't have an answer for you. It sounds like you agree with me on that assessment.
Yeah. It's just like, you look at their ranks; they're in the 20s to the bottom, 4 or 5 in the league in every single category. Spearheaded by that rushing attack and their rushing defense. Like, in the NFL, if you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run, you become so one-dimensional on both sides of the ball. Right now, they cannot run the ball. The Ezekiel Elliott experiment or return was a complete failure, and you saw that last week with him not even being active for the game. And they cannot stop the run. Their defensive line has gotten pushed around, so that's a recipe for disaster. And this is just not a very good team right now.
Yeah, that's for sure here. And I think obviously the big question here is how this year has gone so horribly wrong here, even before the Dak injury, because they were turning the wrong way. For me, I think it goes back to the offseason when Jerry Jones is telling everybody, oh, we're all in. And then they proceed to do pretty much nothing because they're trying to hold money back for CD and Dak and eventually a Parsons extension. I think letting all the talent erode, they didn't really fill their holes too well. I feel like that was sort of the start of the downward spiral here.
Yeah, I think that it's important to mention Jerry Jones, because at this point now, I think the anger is really starting to get directed solely at Jerry, where, as in years past, yes, it's been Jerry, it's been McCarthy or Jason Garrett even, or the quarterback, whether it was Romo or Dak. Like, at this point now, almost all the blame is going on Jerry Jones. Like, he constructed this team. He made the all-in decree that this team was going to be all in. And then, like you said, did absolutely nothing in the offseason, signed basically 2 players, spent the least amount of money as any team in the offseason. Like, they basically tried to just run it back from last year and said, hey, we've won 12 games 3 years in a row. Let's run it back. But they hadn't actually accomplished anything. Like, they were winning regular season games, mostly against teams that they were a lot better than. And then when it came time to kind of step up in a weight class, basically consistently they were failing. When you're a team like the Kansas City Chiefs that's won back-to-back Super Bowls, you can run it back and, with the similar type of players, just bring back your own guys and go for another one. When you're the Cowboys, who haven't even made it to a conference title game, saying that you're going to run it back just didn't make much sense. And not only that, they didn't even retain a lot of their talent. They lost a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball as well. So, yeah, I think the anger is now going towards the owner, who is also the general manager, who should not be the general manager, in Jerry Jones. And I think that you're starting to see a real revolt from the Cowboys fans in terms of him still running this team.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of talent drain, too. I mean, obviously, you mentioned all the defensive guys. Plus, I mean, they lost some guys in the line. Tyrone Smith's on the Jets. They let Tony Pollard walk here. Like, they didn't really do much to replace those guys. And that's, I think, the root of it because, like, they were decently deep before. And, like, they got so thin that, like, a couple injuries really just put them behind the 8 ball.
Exactly, yeah. And you know, you talk about letting Tyron Smith walk. You know, you let him go, and then that forces you now to basically have to draft Tyler Guyton in the first round. They had no other really options. Tyler Guyton is a guy who's been okay. He's been getting better as the season has gone on, but he's not someone that should have been a day one starter for you as a left tackle. He should have been backing up Tyron Smith and you know, figuring it out for a year or so, but you force yourself to do that. You know, you also talk about trading a 4th round pick for Trey Lance. There were plenty of running backs that they could have gotten later in the draft that they did not get. Braylon Allen on the Jets is a perfect example of that as someone who maybe could have been something for you. There were so many running backs that they could have taken in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round that they did not do. And it's just, you know, it's been complete mismanagement from the Joneses basically throughout the entire offseason. And now you're seeing what the results are.
Yeah, I'm sure but for the movie audience about the Derrick Henry situation, I mean, it felt like Derrick Henry was begging to go to the Cowboys, and they showed no interest, and he goes to Baltimore. He's tearing up with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and listen, would he be having this historic season if he was on the Cowboys? No, but you know, is it safe to say the Cowboys would not be 3-5 if they had Derrick Henry? I think that's a safe bet to make that they would be a better team with Derrick Henry. You know, that could run the ball for 150 yards per game instead of 80 yards per game. Like it's just a different team if you have that option. And yeah, that was one of the biggest ones. But, you know, not even like not going after Derrick Henry, but not going after any of these free agent running backs. You know, obviously, you know, Saquon, Josh Jacobs were maybe a little bit higher price range for them. But look at a guy like Joe Mixon, like Zach Moss, like even bringing back Tony Pollard, like Aaron Jones. Like these guys are all near the top of the league in rushing. And the Cowboys just passed on every single one of them. None of them were really going to cost you all that much money. Instead, you bring back Ezekiel Elliott, which was just uninspired from the start. Tried to make us believe like he had something left in the tank, and it's clear that he does not. And then to make matters worse, they were stubborn, and up until this past week, we're really splitting carries, and in some cases, giving more carries to Ezekiel Elliott over Rico Dowdle, who has been the better back all season long. It's just been mismanagement from the top down, and that's why they're in the position that they're in right now.
Yeah, and now they got the game. I think CBS now is a little disappointed in what happened. They get the first Eagles-Cowboys game about like 3 decades, and now they don't have Dak Prescott in the game. Cooper Rush is starting for the Cowboys, and he did go 5-1 the last time he was a starter, but that was a much better Cowboy team around him than the one he has right now. Here, we saw the line shift dramatically once we learned that Dak went on IR here. So, is there any hope for the Cowboys to keep this game close, or you feel like this is sort of a beginning of the end here with the funeral march coming with this next stretch of games coming up that he's going to miss?
Yeah, I think this is very similar to how the Cowboys' previous home games have looked, and that it's probably going to be over by halftime. You know, you look at the Lions game, the Ravens game, and the Saints game. I know that they made a little bit of a comeback against the Ravens, but all 3 of those games were really over by halftime. You could have turned them off, and most people probably did. Even me as a Cowboys fan turned it off out of anger. That's probably what's going to happen here. You know, the Eagles, you know, even if Dak was playing in this game, the Eagles would have been a pretty heavy favorite, or, you know, just a likely team that could have, you know, blown this game open. And I think with Cooper Rush, the Cowboys aren't going to be able to move the ball very well, and the Eagles, I think, are just going to run all over them. So I don't see any way that the Cowboys keep this game close. I think that the Eagles will probably roll them and embarrass them on national TV on that 4:25 window once again for the entire nation to see.
Well, not quite the entire nation, because New York and Arizona get the Jets and the Cardinals, so at least those markets is fair that game.
Well, lucky for me, maybe I guess I won't get the game in New York. I have the Sunday ticket, but maybe I'll just stick on Channel 2 and I'll just watch the Jets game, and I won't even bother with the Cowboys because at this point, you know, it's they're not worth watching. And I think that's another problem that I want to bring up as well, is that you have a lot of like apathy now from the fan base. Like there's not a lot of fans that really are upset. You know, me as a fan, I'm someone that, you know, is locked into every game. I've lost interest in terms of I'm still watching the games, but I don't yell and scream at the TV anymore really since the 2nd or 3rd game of the year, because it's just been clear this team doesn't have it. And once you get that apathy, it really starts to get ugly, I think.
Yeah, let me throw the crazy hypothetical out here. Do you think things get banned if they actually flex the Cowboys off NBC in Week 16?
It's actually been done before. A couple of years ago, I want to say it was the COVID year when Dak was also hurt. Yeah. They flexed them and the Niners out, I think, for the Giants, I want to say, and the Browns that year.
I think that was right, yes.
Yeah. So it's happened before. It would not shock me because, listen, I mean, if they lose these next 3 games and they're now 3-8, and then they're playing on Thanksgiving, and let's just say they lose to the Giants on Thanksgiving, they're 3-9. They might just shut down Dak for the rest of the season. Like, what's the point of bringing him back at that point? They may as well at that point just give Trey Lance the keys and say, see what he can do before he hits free agency. So it seriously could spiral out of control for them where they are finishing like 5-12, 4-13. Like, that's 100% on the table. So yeah, if it gets to the end of the year and they're completely out of it, I think they would get pushed out.
Yeah, they're playing Tampa that week 16. So we'll see how that plays out. But now we'll go to the picks. The reason why you're here, as I mentioned earlier, Sean Rowe was here last week. He went 2-1 on the week. He's lost because he picked the Texans getting the point half against my team on Thursday night. They blew that game badly. He had the Commanders laying a 3.5 against the Giants. They won that game, and he took the Falcons against your guys laying a 2.5. So 2-1 for Sean. I think you would agree with that pick at that point.
Yes, yeah, I actually had the Falcons as well. So good pick there. The 2.5 was really never in doubt for the entire second half. So good pick there.
Yeah, so my pick, I also went 2-1 the week. We had a family play on the Commanders. I had the Rams laying the 1.5. They made me sweat in Seattle. They got it. Broncos plus 9.5. I thought there was a lot of points on the road with that defense, but they couldn't stop Lamar at all. So 2-1 for me last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Broncos were I saw a lot of people taking them last week. I actually had them as well. I like them in that spot. The tough game for them.
Yeah, so on the year, still very tight. Team challengers 14-13. I'm 14-12-1. I had a push in week 1, so that's the reason why it's not like all the way up there yet. But as of now, Troy, we're going to do the week 10 picks. As the guest, you may go first. So where are you going to go with pick number 1 this week?
Sure. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road against the Commanders for my first pick. I think they're +3, +2.5 at this point. I like them outright, though. I think that they can win this game. If you look statistically, Mike Tomlin is 25-6 in his career against rookie quarterbacks as a head coach. And listen, Jaden Daniels is no ordinary rookie. He's probably one of the best rookie quarterbacks we've seen, at least in terms of to start a season in NFL history. But that's a telling stat there. I think that the Commanders they're due to lose a game here. They haven't looked great the last 2 weeks. Obviously, one with the Hail Mary, and then one with the and then one last week against the Giants when the Giants really outplayed them for a good portion of that game. So they could have lost their last 2 games. I just think that they're due for a loss. You look at the Commanders' schedule. They're playing the Eagles on Thursday night next week, so it could be a little bit of a look-ahead spot for them as well. I like the Steelers to win this game outright, so I'm going to go with the Steelers +3 in that one.
I like the logic on that pick there. The Eagle thing's a great point because it could be a look-ahead spot when they're trying to get ready for the big division game. They have Dallas after that. Plus, you look at the situation of the Steelers, too. Strong defensive team. Might throw stuff at Jaden Daniels he hasn't seen before. You have a team that's coming off a bye, just trying to get ready for Jaden Daniels. So this could be a good spot for the Steelers to dial up some pressure here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a spot play.
All right, where you going?
For my second pick, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons on the road against the Saints. Listen, I mean, can you trust the Falcons? I'm not totally sure. This is more just a fade against the Saints. They just fired their head coach. They've lost 7 games in a row. They're a terrible team, and I'm only giving 3.5, 4 points in this game. Might go up by the time that the game kicks off, but I'm really just fading the Saints. I think that the Falcons are a good team. They're going to win that division. They got to start stacking some wins here to really pull away in that division. And I just think that the Saints are lost. They're broken. Chris Olave is out. So I'm gonna go with the Falcons on the road as my second pick.
Yeah, other positive here. It's not prime time, so Kirk Cousins, you don't have to worry about that.
Exactly. I think it's 1 o'clock, right? Just tuck it away. 1 o'clock window, like one of the Fox games. Like no one's gonna watch it. Falcons will win like 27-13 or something like that.
All right, so let's pick 2. You're going with your last pick of the week.
Sure. My last pick, we talked about it. You asked me the question about the Eagles and the Cowboys. I do not think that the Cowboys keep this game close. It hurts me to say as a Cowboys fan against our bitter rival, the Philadelphia Eagles, but I think the Eagles just blow them out in this game. Eagles are -7 right now, but I think the Eagles are going to win this game by double digits. Like I said, I think it's going to be a type of game that is a blowout by halftime, and you just turn it off. The only difference is I don't think that the Cowboys have the firepower to kind of come back and maybe make this this spread in jeopardy. Like you looked at, the Falcons game, the Niners game, the Ravens game. Those were examples of them getting blown out, but Dak Prescott was kind of able to pull them back in. I don't see that happening. I see this game being like 34-14, and then if they get maybe a cosmetic touchdown at the end there, to maybe make it 34-21 or something like that. But I don't see the Cowboys being within even 2 scores to be able to get a late touchdown to make this thing interesting. The Eagles are just too good. They're going to overpower them. They're going to run the ball all over them, even with A.J. Brown's status in question. Jalen Hurts is playing good turnover-free football lately, so I'm going to go with the Eagles on the road as the big favorites as my 3rd pick.
Yeah, that line where it is interesting. It feels like they're trying to entice people to bet on the Cowboys, but not pushing it higher. But I feel like the Eagles are still the correct play here. I feel like this is a spot where they win by double digits at least.
Exactly, and like I said, I don't see the Cowboys doing that backdoor magic like they've done in previous games. It's just not going to happen. They're going to be getting crushed. So I see this more along the lines of the Lions game than the other games that they've come back in.
All right, so your picks are on the board now. I'll start with mine here. Pick number 1, I'm taking the Bears laying 6 against New England on Sunday here. And this is a spot here where I know the Bears are struggling of late. You got the Hail Mary game. They have a no-show against Arizona here. They have tough division games coming up here, but this is a game that they have to get. New England's not a good football team. Drake Bay will make mistakes. Chicago's defense is carrying guard here. Patriot D is not good either here. I think this is a spot here. If the Bears are struggling to get by this game, they've got big issues down the stretch. I think they get this job done easily. I get them under a touchdown. I'll lay the 6 of the Bears for pick number 1.
Yeah, I like the logic of that too. Like you look at the Bears' schedule coming up after this game, it is really, really tough. This is a game that they absolutely need to be in any sort of NFC playoff contention there. So I like the logic of it. They're going to be motivated playing against a rookie quarterback and with that defense that has been pretty good all year. So I like that pick.
That's pick 1. Pick number 2, I got burned doing this in the London game earlier this year, but I feel like why is Carolina getting 5 points against the Giants? The Giants are not a good football team. They should not be favored by that many over anyone at this point in the season here. Daniel Jones has a good matchup here, but I feel like he's going to make some mistakes at this point. I feel like this game's a 3-point game either way. I feel like Carolina may lose this game, but they're competitive. They showed something against the Saints last week. They played hard. Bryce Young has a little confidence going here. I know the Giant pass rush is scary, but their secondary sticks. If Bryce Young extends the play, they'll have opportunities to make plays down the field. So I'll take the 5 points in Carolina. I feel like that's way too many for the Giants to be laying.
Oh, yeah. Anytime in a game with 2 really bad teams that are playing for draft position at this point that you can get the team with a couple of points, you take it. Like, would it surprise you if the Panthers won that game outright? Absolutely not. They just won last week. So, you're getting 5 points. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I know the Giant fans are with me on this one. They would love to see the Panthers take care of that one.
Exactly. They want to lose that game.
Yeah. All right, that's pick number 2. Pick number 3 here. I've said this on the pod. I've said this in blog posts here. The Jets have to show me that they can sustain this. Be able to lead they're back in here. So I'm laying the one with the Cardinals on Sunday in a 425 window here. We've seen this the Jets too many times where they give you that tease and we think, oh, we're back. We figured it out. This is going to be our chance to rock and roll down the stretch. Remember 2017, they're dancing on the field on Thursday night against Buffalo? Go up next week and lay an egg against Fitzpatrick and Tampa Bay. Remember in 2019 when they got 3 in a row to get to friends of the wild card race and Adam Gase is skipping Thanksgiving dinner with his family, get ready for the 0-11 Bengals. They lose that game. Until convinced otherwise, it's the same old Jets. The same old Jets lose this football game. I'm laying a point with the Cardinals. Basically, pick them. Give me Arizona. Prove me wrong, Jets.
That was spoken like a true depressed Jets fan that has been through this many, many times. And I guarantee you, every single Jets fan that is listening to this agrees with you 100%. They need to see it before they believe it. And I don't think that the Jets fans are necessarily buying it right now.
Yeah, they're definitely not buying it. And to reset the picks for the week, Troy's gone with the Falcons laying a 3.5 against the Saints in New Orleans. The Eagles laying 7 against the Cowboys in Dallas minus Dak Prescott. And the Steelers getting 3 in Washington against the Commanders. My picks, the Bears laying the 6 against the Patriots. The Cardinals laying a point at home against the Jets. And the Panthers getting 5 in Munich against the New York Football Giants here. Those are your picks for week number 10. And next week on the podcast, I'm going to be joined by a good friend of mine, Colts fan Dan DiMartino. We're going to discuss what's going on with them. They're switched to Joe Flacco. They have a game against the Jets, got flexed out of NBC prime time this week. So, interesting spot to get Dan on here.
Yeah, for sure. The Colts are a team that I think is kind of like the Cowboys in that their season could kind of spiral out of control here. So, interesting game for them.
Yeah, and I feel like NBC made the right call getting the Jets out of that primetime spot there because I think we've seen enough of the Jets this year. Like Joe Flacco.
Yeah, over the last 2 years, like we've seen enough Jets on Sunday and Monday and Thursday night football. They had plenty of opportunities to flex them out last year, and they didn't do it. So I'm glad that they finally took the step in the right direction and did that.
Yeah, plus I think the Colts looking flat against the Vikings after the quarterback.
Exactly.
It didn't help.
Exactly.
All right, so Troy, once again, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to follow you on social media. How can I do that?
Sure, yeah, I'm on Twitter at Troy Mauriello. The last name is Mauriello. If you're a big St. John's fan, that's basically 95% of my tweets. The other 5% are complaints about the Cowboys. So check me out for sure.
Yeah, college basketball season started this week here. I don't know if you were at the mess on Monday when they couldn't get people in the building at Carnesecca, but like it seems like hopes are high for Patino this year.
Yes, yeah, I was not at that game, thankfully. You would have seen a couple of angry tweets if I was, but yeah, they look like a really good team right now. They're right on the edge of the top 25. They played an exhibition against Rutgers a couple of weeks ago and beat them on the road. So yeah, the hopes are high. For once, it feels like maybe they actually have a team that can deliver on those high hopes, but we will see. The Big East is going to be a gauntlet like always, so we'll see.
Yep, we'll see how it pans out. Troy, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.